Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you find the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Today we have Danielle Crowell and Jared Vidales. They are the founders of Equity Connect and definitely a power couple. They are coming from a background in finance and engineering and were able to put together one of the top producing companies in a very competitive market. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Dani, if you want to give us a rundown and take it away.
I have a finance degree from ASU, and when I was graduating, I was really not sure. I had an intern, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then I ended up, I was bartending at a Mexican restaurant, and I ended up meeting this Israeli investor who was out of California, and he was buying homes here in Phoenix. It was 2010, and so it was crazy at that time, obviously. There was blood in the streets. So when I talked to him, I realized he didn't really have a business yet. It was kind of more just a hustle, like just get as much as we can. It's a good opportunity. So I just basically I got into his office and we kind of talked about his need for organization and possibly management. And he wasn't quite sure what he needed. So I just kind of dove in and hired somebody to teach me QuickBooks, and I organized his back end. And then I started doing more and more. It was single family, so it was one at a time, and buy, stabilize, sell, turnkey provider kind of a business.
So you took a leap really from what you would call a job, a 9 to 5, a regular 9 to 5, and then you started to figure stuff out. Did you have any previous experience?
No, I didn't. So my family is in real estate, so we've done. We have farms and stuff like that, and my dad was in the Harley Davidson business, so I kind of understood business a bit. I was 21 years old, so there's only so much I knew, but I always was part of those conversations with my dad that I could kind of see and emulate some of the things he did. So pulling from the different areas that I had experience in, plus a passion for real estate, I was able to say, this is an opportunity. I'm going to double down on it. He's paying me minimum wage, but I'm going to take this as a learning opportunity.
Let's go to town on it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool, going from totally opposite industry into something as vicious as real estate.
Yeah.
And building up on it. And Jared, you, for example, have a background in engineering, right? You went through the corporate world for a while.
Yeah, I went through the corporate kind of ladder, if you will. So I graduated with a materials engineering degree, biomedical emphasis. So during college, before we graduated, we had to do 1 quarter of industry experience. So we were trying to develop, how to create the first polymer-based cardiovascular stent. It was a race between Medtronic and Abbott Pharmaceuticals. And so me and my team, as 5 of us, we were just rushing. Medtronic was giving us all these resources trying to develop this new proprietary product, and I hated it. It sucked, right? So that project kind of prompted me to say, I don't want to do engineering. I rather go into more of a tech. I want to go talk to people. I want to interact. I want to be around people. I don't want to be locked up in an R&D lab every day and just kill myself, right? So I came out of college. So instead of going the biomedical route, I went and started looking at technical sales, right? Sales that were still engineering based, but I'd be selling them to C and D level executives to try and help their operations. So long story short, I got out of college. I was out of California. So in 2012, I moved to Phoenix in the middle of the summer. Worked there and, did that for about probably between 2.5 and 3 years. And, that was my whole drive, was because my parents, right? Hey, go climb the corporate ladder, go put in your work and develop this skill set so you could, be comfy, do that type of thing. But for me, for everybody who knows me, I can't be contained in a box. I cannot, I do not take direction well. And my biggest why is I want to do what I want when I want to do it. And if I'm on somebody else's time, that's not going to jive.
It's not possible.
So during that time, I was super gung-ho, trying to learn the trades, right? And then as I was putting in, I grind my ass off. I'm 110% on everything, and I was putting 110% into this corporate position, but the output, which was money, right, wasn't jiving. And I'm like, God, this is just not, my time is not worth this. So my interest started to decrease in the corporate thing, and I'm like, okay, what can I go out and do and hustle and really try to be successful in? And I've always been interested in real estate because for me, I have to touch it, smell it, like it's tangible, right?
Right.
Like for me, like stocks, bonds, like it's like a moving target. It just never made sense to me. So coming out to Arizona in 2000 at the time, like probably 2014 now, like I'm looking around, I'm like, holy shit, like I was in Tempe renting a house, and this house was worth, the homeowner bought it for 50 grand. And randomly I got like something in my email yesterday.
Probably 2009 or something like that when.
Probably.
Yeah, and they
When we were
remodeled it. Yeah, and they put their kids in there. They lived there while they went to ASU, and I was just a corporate guy renting, and it was. Anyways, long story short, I'm like, there's so much opportunity out here. So I was trying to like for me, like I learned through other people. Like back before like Facebook, I was a forum junkie where like car audio forums, like how to build like how to cut through all the biased bullshit articles and get straight to the point where people are saying, hey, yes, this works because I've spent 10 years, $1 million trying to figure out like this is what works, right? It's like it's raw. So for me to get to that raw type of like, you know, what works, I had to go out and meet people, contractors, other investors. Like back in the day, it was the Delgadillos on the west side. They were doing, you know, a couple hundred flips a year, and I was just trying to figure out like, where do I fit in within real estate? So I guess long story short, I wanted to flip houses like everybody else. So I bought 2 houses in Maryvale, which is west side of Phoenix, and I just started flipping them.
So you jumped into, man, that's a big leap. It's also pretty cool to see that you had the awareness to understand that, all right, this sucks. I mean, this is my career. I've spent, you know, so much time doing it. But sometimes people just remain in that same spot, you know, out of fear or out of, you know,
For sure.
discomfort of not wanting to, exactly, not wanting to move. And it's pretty cool that you caught on that and then just started, you know, capitalizing on other stuff. You mentioned going straight to the source, and I think, I mean, that's huge, man. I've seen you operate. You're a maniac when it comes to systems and setting things up and running a cool, like, you know, solid operation. You both are, and it's, tell me about that. Like whenever you look for you know, going to the source, how do you cut the learning curve?
So that's the biggest thing, because there's a couple of different theories, right? You could go jump on board with a position, you know, be a grunt, learn from the inside out, and just really learn on somebody else's dime. You could go hire a mentor. You could go network and just take bits and pieces and figure out like, how does this apply to me? And is what he's saying, does this apply to like my personality and my vision? Like, am I going to be successful implementing this, right? Because like you may do something one way, we may do something a different way, but like what you do fits like your personality, and like it jives better. It comes natural.
We are different in the way that we approach this exact topic. We're polar opposites with it. He will go and read forums. Like, he's like, we have a wholesale operation and we're starting to look into some new things, and I'm running this while he's doing the R&D and, you know, calling people and talking to, you know, attorneys and other people doing development is what we're talking about. And just learning it from like all of the perspectives, so he can come back to me and we can kind of put a plan together. But I'm the type of person that's like, let's get a piece of land, let's start talking to people, and let's do this. And I mean, I learned from picking up the phone and asking stupid questions while I'm doing it, rather than understanding it and then
shooting first and aiming later kind of deal.
That's kind of how I am.
Yeah, I'm.
Both are good. You need both, I think.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, she's jump in head first, and I'm kind of more in the like paralysis by analysis type of thing. But like, I'm not that bad. Like for me, like, okay, so back in the day, like when we were all fucking broke, right? Like the only thing you had was time. So you had to go out and like learn from people, and like all you had to give was like some sort of mutual exchange of value for them to give you time, and so you could in exchange learn. But now that like we're doing okay, like I'm okay paying for people's time and paying for the right people to assemble that team, because like Dani said, we want to go build master plan communities, but like we don't have that experience, right? Nor do I want to go and jump in head first, take all this other people's money and go jack it up, and now we're done, right?
Yeah, that's a different level.
So
for sure.
so like,
different, bigger problems.
Yeah,
bigger problems. But like I'm like right now, like I'm trying to find out, okay, who are the players in the market, right? And like let's at least like have some sort of relationship, but let's pull in like, hey, who's your architect? Who's your engineer? Who's your landscape guy? Who's your planning, your city planner? So trying to pull the team together so the professionals now could go take that vision and go execute it. So we're not trying to guess, trying to piece the pieces together without knowing, right?
Right.
Because we've gotten screwed on projects where we put the wrong team together, and like it's a disaster, right?
Finding your power team is huge. I know I've gotten caught up on the logistics of trying to put everything together, and I mean that shit just doesn't work, man. It burns you out. You do a lot of extra work. The quality of it at the other end, if you're not the expert on that particular subject, it's gonna be crappy. So it's always put a team together, a power team together, and then empower them and then let them execute. How do you select, like, whenever you're and this applies across all verticals, right? Not just real estate, but how do you select like the right people? Because that's what's happening right now. You guys have a pretty cool vibe when you walk into your guys' office, and I mentioned that last time I was there. And now, like, how do you take that and then apply it to something bigger? Right now, you guys are transitioning into like this whole other beast, which is development.
Well, we have our core team that we've put together and assembled over the last 4 years. And then we've got this kind of new venture that we're going to start over and put an external team together that's going to help us. But continue. So you mean the smaller, like, internal team?
Well, I'm like, how do you select the talent that's going to work with you guys? How do you see somebody and say, like, all right, cool, this guy's a good fit?
I would say it's two things. It's the resume, and it's the, like, can we, like, work together? Like, you're not gonna, it's gonna, like, somebody could have all the experience in the world, but you two may not jive. And it's gonna be, okay, I'm gonna be in bed with this guy for, let's say, 2.5 years. Like, it's not gonna work no matter how good he is. So the resume, right? So, like, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out who are all these big, these REITs and these funds who are building these planned communities. Like, who are they using for their architects or engineers? Like, who is their power team? And then and getting referrals and just saying, okay, well, I mean, we could go hire a GC, but that GC may only do, like, industrial or self-storage. Like, the stuff that we're doing, it's conceptually, it's new to the marketplace. So we want to leverage his experience, but before we get in bed with them, we want to have that conversation and date and make sure, like, we're all a fit. And not only are you hiring that guy, you have to make sure that guy works well with your other key players. Like, if you're hiring an architect, you have to make sure he works well with the engineer. You have to make sure he works well with the GC. It's not just do you two work together. It's does the whole team jive and work together.
I think you said it right. I mean, you're practically marrying that person for a period of time, and also looking at whether or not they're going to be somebody at least that you can talk to and build a relationship with. I mean, I think that goes a long way when it comes to putting a team together.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you guys have transitioned, obviously, from you started from basically you built a whole thing. I'm gonna edit that out. Basically, you built the whole thing, and put it on its 2 feet by your guys' self. So right now you're running a pretty successful wholesale operation here in Phoenix, and you're transitioning into something bigger. What's the biggest type of fear that comes into your mind as you're, like, looking at different possibilities or looking at different outcomes?
That's a great question. I think that we have become kind of experts in our field. And it's fun to be an expert. It's nice to be an expert at something. And then once you go into something new, you have to humble yourself and say, I need coaching and I need to understand all the pieces and development. Although we've built, the luxury home and, like, homes and different things, it's a whole different ballgame and a whole different price point. You're raising money. You're having conversations that you've never had before. The fear is it's also exciting because it's like the opportunity is huge, but it's a leap. It's a new thing, and it's also, we have our existing business that needs attention. It's running, and we need to make sure we're not letting that go while we're exploring the new things. Yeah,
there's a lot of pieces, especially that you like to move fast.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
So the way. What was the question?
I like to move fast, but in this case, there's a lot of money in play, and I mean, we're talking maybe 50 to 100 home subdivisions that we're talking about assimilating, and it's kind of there's a lot of a lot going into it, and I'm not trying to move fast in this case.
Right.
I want
so
to
you have the awareness too.
Yeah, we have
just gotta dial it back,
some basic team members that we're putting together, which I think the rest of it's all going to come into play in time.
My biggest fear is...
I think we're on the same page right now about how we're approaching the next venture.
Because this is brand new. Like, even though it's the same vertical, it's a different asset class, which require a different set of players and relationships. Like, on the wholesale side, like, we're pretty up there. We're all friends. Like, it's fun because of, like, the friendship and, like, the camaraderie that we've all developed here in, like, the Phoenix market, right? But now we're going into this new asset class where it's like, okay, and you know, these aren't wholesalers who, you know, somebody who has $5,000 in their pocket, they could go start. These are investment banks. These are commercial brokers. These are, you know, $500 billion builders and developers and stuff like that. So the biggest fear is not having them take us like seriously, coming from like, you know, this type of like, I guess, industry. So like, we need to go in and we need to come out swinging for them to say, okay, these guys have some balls on them. They're willing to put up cash and get something done. They're not just going to dick us around and waste our time. So it's like how do we develop the reputation that we have here and then transition it into the commercial space?
Right. That's huge, because even at the lower scales, whenever you're starting off and you don't have any experience in entrepreneurship, period,
right,
it's scary to jump into. So I mean, you're telling me that you've had a good amount of success in a particular industry. You became experts at that industry. Now you're moving to something else, and that fear is still there, like the cautionary fear per se.
The same fear you felt when you first started
wholesaling. It doesn't go away. It's about taming it. More than getting rid of it.
Yeah,
we'll
and about
there.
learning how we overcame it in the first place. You know, what steps did we take?
I think it's just the hours, like, because we do the most complex deals. We move extremely fast. And we handle a lot of transactions, and because we're in the trenches every single day, and we could literally engineer and do we could make anything happen in our business. But that comes with a ton of hours, a ton of experience. Losing money, like going out and like figuring it out. Like, we just got to take that and we just got to put in the hours and figure out like what the obstacles and issues are in this space. So then like we're more confident in executing and speaking to the right players, go raising the capital, and then just putting all the pieces together and executing it just seamlessly.
Yes, I mean, so that grind and hustle never goes away. It's just, levels up.
Exactly.
Morphs, levels up, and then you got to step up your game.
Exactly.
I'm really, really curious to hear about how you guys do it, together. Like, as far as I don't know a lot of relationships that are successful in business, and they stay successful in business, and then they move on together to bigger things.
Right.
So that to me, it's pretty special. Props. And how do you? I mean. And I don't know if I'm overstepping here on the questions, but as far as boundary wise, and how do you guys operate and keep that happy medium?
Yeah, no, we're a pretty open book.
Every time I run into you guys, like, he's always smiling. I don't know why, but he's always smiling. I love it.
That's part of why it's so easy to work together. But
you guys just have this really cool vibe, and super friendly, super successful, and they have this whole thing going on. How do you guys keep it together as a couple?
Well.
I don't mean to turn into Dr. Ross.
No. I like these questions. We were.
These are easier questions to answer because we fielded them a few times. I mean, the story of how we came up after he did those 2 flips and I did my experience with the previous investor. We ended up meeting and partnering up with a group of us that were investing, and so we were business partners first. We got into business first before we became a couple. So. That was always a natural thing for us to work, and then we there was a friendship out of it, and then that turned into more. And so we can respect each other in business, and we've learned that we perfectly fit like each other. There's things we both work on, but I think that we're a really good balance for each other in business. How do we handle the balance of like taking it home versus like being a couple? We battle that all the time because we both love what we do. We're always, when you're building something, you want to talk about that all the time because that's what's on your mind. So we find ourselves, that's what we do. But we take our Taco Tuesdays and margaritas and hang out, and just talk about what we're gonna do that weekend and stuff like that. And we do our best to actively put. We always say water the grass over here too. It's like you have to water the grass to make sure it continues to grow as a couple. So we're not, neglecting that.
I love it.
I think it's ultimately like we're aligned to this on the same goal, because like other relationships, it's like, okay, you're like the guy, the man and the woman, like they have different like goal, like objectives, like business wise. I think that, I think for us, what works is like we have the same business objectives, we have the same relationship objectives, the same like family objectives, like all these like different things like coming together. Because like the moment I feel like if we were on two separate pages, because there's a time where like we dissolved the company and we're deciding like, do we work together or not? And I'm like sitting there thinking like, if Dani had like was going over here business wise and I was going over here business wise, like we're so passionate about business and being successful that like we would never be on the same page, and ultimately it would deteriorate everything. So like we're super like enthusiastic and optimistic, and our goals are really, really high, and we accomplish that together, which is very powerful. But ultimately, I think it's the communication that has to stay. Like for me, I'm a terrible communicator. Like I do my like I'm introverted, and like I hold my feelings like within. And thank God, like I'm dating Dani, because every day she's trying to pull it out of me, because that communication ultimately, that's what strengthens us. Communication kills anybody, a company, a couple, like that has to be flowing. So I think us working on that and having the same like business alignment as well as other things, I think it helps
For
us.
sure.
Yeah, she's aware of a lot of that stuff in you, and so are you from her. I think what you guys have this really cool, more than balance, it's like counterbalance. I mean, she goes fast, you go slow, and then you just kind of pull her back whenever she's going out there. And this is like, I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but whenever he's not, he's analyzing too much, you pull him into the action, and I mean, I think it's a pretty cool game between the two of you.
For sure.
You mentioned respect, you mentioned communication. I think that's really the key to keep going towards those same goals. I mean, it's a recipe for success.
In a relationship, in a business partnership, it's communication will kill anything. So we actively try to work on that all the time.
What about mindset wise? It's so you're obviously a strategist, and you implement, so you execute and everything. But what do you think the mindset piece falls into it? What would you attribute like your biggest mindset strengths as you've been going through the whole entrepreneur process, the highs and the lows?
You can go first.
So
like you have a list.
I don't know. like for I mean, I'll speak for Dani. Like she's overly optimistic on literally everything. For me, I'm optimistic, but once I paint a vision in my head, like I will get there. For me, like I'm a very visual person. Like I have to, like when I'm on something, when I have fixed to something, like it's not like if I'm gonna get there, it's when and how fast, and like who's gonna help me along the way to get to that point.
Yes.
Like I'm like ultra visionary. Like if I want something, like I'm gonna get that, and there's no like I don't see. Maybe that's what it is like I don't see risk, right? Like I see the goal. I don't really see the risks, but when the risks pop up, like she's really good at kind of deflecting them and making sure we're not like getting our asses sued or whatever it is.
But on the flip side, if he doesn't have that vision, he's completely paralyzed by it. He doesn't know how to put one foot in front of the other.
I need a vision.
If he doesn't have that end goal,
It's like there's no fuel in the tank.
Yeah, exactly. And that happened last year. Wholesale has been difficult as a business, and it's like, okay, what's the next thing? Because without something else to look forward to, it's like, I don't know, there's just no end to be working toward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, industries get hard, and after a while, if you don't have that passion or that fire, kind of starts fading away, and everything becomes monotonous. I mean, it's the same thing that happened to you back when you were, first starting off. You realize that, all right, cool, this is not what I want to do. But when you have a running business, you have other people underneath you. The responsibilities are much bigger.
Right.
Much bigger.
And it's a much bigger call to just turn around and then walk away from something.
Right, and we feel that pressure of having to because you have to, if you're looking at a new industry, you have to be able to explain to your employees what that vision is and get everybody on the ship turned in the right direction. So we've made some shifts in our business to go more creative financing and notes and stuff like that. And I think that everybody's now back on board and in line and going toward a new goal.
But we're so, like, our team is so tight.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like almost, and I know I shouldn't, I feel guilty, like, looking over at this new venture because, like, I want them to be involved, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I'm cheating on my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, it's this weird psychological thing, and that's tough for me.
Well, we've built a team because we talked about the external team that we're putting together for the new venture, but the internal team that we've built of our acquisition people and our support staff and just everybody, it's like we have them in every conversation. We have our level 10 meetings and hold each other to goals, and we, so exactly, we've built a team that we want to target toward whatever we're working on. So it's not just us we're thinking about, it's the whole company.
And it's so you're saying it's hard to kind of start something on the side and then not really completely focus on that.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm gonna spend 80% of my time with you guys and making sure like ops are smooth, and I'm gonna spend this other 20% time not with you guys where you're not involved. Like, it's like
for now, but if we decide to go this route, we can
somehow, some way. I mean, if you have bottom line is that if you have a strong team and you have a strong base of support, there's always going to be a place where you're going to need assistance, help, and it's always better to go back to the those who you already know, who they're there for you. I'm doing that right now with this company, reaching out to people who are working with me when I had the transportation company. So it's a pretty cool thing because you build those relationships as you go, and it's not just about the employer-employee dynamic. It's about that connection with the person.
For sure. I feel like I almost mentor my employees, like mindset-wise, like you have a problem and they bring it to me and it's like, okay, you're thinking of this as a problem. Let's think of it as some other way of let's look for solutions rather than just like focus on the problem. And it's just, you teach them how to think a little bit so that they can handle problems without you, and almost like you can gear that toward any venture you go down.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, especially if you see it as a mentor, as a mentorship, opportunity. Silly question. Do you guys have the mom and dad issue, like at work? Like somebody gets mad. Somebody gets mad to go to mom. If not, she says no, they'll go to dad.
Not in that regard, but like when we leave the office, it's playtime at our office.
Okay, cool.
But no, we don't. I mean, usually it's
because I've seen that happen a lot.
Yes, I know companies that have that issue.
Yeah.
For us, not really. They know Jared. Don't go to Jared for certain things because he'll say yes, but he really means no, or he just doesn't.
No, I'll say yes.
He's
and
not
I won't be
listening.
paying attention to you.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
He just is not paying attention, and so
like,
they know what to go. Yeah, we don't have that issue.
Yeah, cool. I love it. What are you guys' daily non-negotiables, like the stuff? And I think we've at a previous meetup we talked about non-negotiables. You guys were there, right? When we were talking with Elijah back.
I don't know if I was there, but I've talked to Elijah about this exact thing.
Cool, because that's where I got the non-negotiables term from. Thank you, Elijah. But I mean, so we have those in business, and then we have those in the personal life. And I'm super interested in both sides because like I said, you guys have a very special dynamic. So, what are your non-negotiables in business?
In business.
Yeah.
I mean, I clear my email out every day. I don't ever go overnight without getting back to somebody. I don't know what else. Why don't you answer?
So explain non-negotiable, like something I get done no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So you come into work and then stuff that you lay out, because I mean you guys are top producers. So how do you keep that productivity going? And do you have things that I'm trying to, I guess, find or pick your brain on strategy or
sure.
setups for.
We're a small business, but we've built our business kind of like a bigger business would, as far as office etiquette and like using calendars and stuff like that. So we have set meetings with our employees that happen every Wednesday, every Thursday, things like that. So I would say that's a big thing for us is always having that meeting pulse of a meeting with them. That keeps us productive and keeps them accountable. So that's
a non-negotiable that kind of developed over time that I'm not as good as enforcing, but I'm getting better, is if somebody comes to me with an issue, then I want them to give me at least one solution before I offer my input.
Okay,
And
that's
something,
huge. Yeah.
and then another thing is like I'm a terrible delegator. Like I'm like you and I like our brains work like where we have to know every nook and cranny for us to be comfortable.
A little bit, yeah.
So now like I try to do my best to not. I don't want to know everything. I want somebody to offer like I want somebody to take that and like run like kind of put their own spin on it and run with it, rather than me trying to break it down, re-engineer it, and say, okay, well, I think this is the best way. You know, it creates way more time.
Absolutely. I'm gonna throw something out there that I started doing because of that, same reason. So I would spend a lot of time, trying to perfect something and then tweaking it, and then all right, cool. Like now I know how the whole thing works, and I never knew how the whole thing worked. I mean, there was always gaps, but now I like if I'm working on something that's new that I don't know about, I'll build it up to like 70-80%, and I say, okay, cool. I'm 70%, 80% happy with it, and then I'll get fresh eyes on it, and then test it out. And whenever it comes back, I'll do a revision on it with feedback, of other people, and that helps me not stick with things, for too long, more than I have to.
Yeah, I would say for me, like I go opposite. If it's something that I'm delegating, I will have the person I'm delegating to write up what they think the process is based on what they've been doing, and then I go in and I tweak it because starting the project is a little bit more difficult when you're busy than just finishing someone else's work. So you could go either way.
No, I love the thought process of both ways, like completely opposite,
Exactly.
and then it just kind of, it works. You create this bubble, and then it works, gets together.
Because the thing is, like time is so scarce. Like if I were to go in and dive in and spend an hour and a half of my time and then put together like a roadmap, to me it's kind of a waste of time. Like when somebody asks me a question, if they have a solution, then I'm going back in 15 minutes trying to figure it out to give to them, and it's like they never really learned.
Right.
And like if I did that like 5 times a day, hey Jared, can you help me on blah blah blah, like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, like all these chunks of time that we don't have, which ultimately is taking away from like our end goal, and it's very easy to get your time robbed. So I guess just trying to be more conscious about that.
Yeah, we have a lot of those conversations in our office where it's like, here's your question, okay, here's your answer, and for next time, this is a learning opportunity to teach you how to go get that answer next time. I do that a lot with our administrative staff so that they know it's less and less questions to ask.
Well, that, and you're also, you're coaching, one, and then two, it's a mind shift. So
Exactly.
it's not, you're training your people not to just look at problems, but look at, okay, cool, I have an issue here, it's a situation, but I'm also going to look at a solution
Exactly.
before they even bring it up, and, becomes, a time suck right there. So, is there, in your opinion, what is an entrepreneur, or do you think there's like a formula to become an entrepreneur? I've had this conversation with different people, and some people say that entrepreneurs are born, and then some other people think that entrepreneurs are made. And then, sometimes there's people in the middle who are like, well, I don't exactly know what an entrepreneur is, but what's your take on that?
I don't know. I feel like they're made, well, you have my sister and me. Like we're both from the same family, parents, and my sister is super skilled, and she's somewhat entrepreneurial minded, but I think there's a lot of work and a lot of just time and
a lot of risk too.
I mean, all the things that go into being an entrepreneur, and you end up doing business rather than what you're in business to do. In our case, real estate. I deal with people problems more than real estate problems. So it's like, we are both from the same, we're 1 year apart, super close. We grew up exactly the same. We both worked for my dad. We both, just pretty much had the same upbringing. And she works for our team rather than owning her own business, and she prefers it. And
she's really good at what she does.
Yeah, so
really
she grows herself within our business, and we give her opportunity in return. But for me, I could never work, like I worked for my dad, and that's it my whole life. Like I've never other than, the investor. So I always just was entrepreneurial minded. So maybe that's an argument too. They are born.
For me, like,
they're made. They're made. They're not born because we're.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like having that burning desire and passion to go do something. Like for me, like whenever I want something, like the vision is so clear and the drive is so strong, I just get there no matter what. And like I'm like a builder. Like I like putting the pieces together and trying to figure out the most efficient and cost-effective way of getting there. So I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're providing a product or a service to people to make, solve an issue.
Right.
But like, I don't know. That's a good question. Like I just have like everything like I have my eye on. It's just so strong.
And you think it's something that it's innate within you, or is it something that you kind of learned along the way? I mean, a lot of people learn through hardship, and they say, all right, I don't want to be put in that same spot, and then that'll be the fire behind it. That'll be the drive behind it. You mentioned drive right now. So.
Yeah. So like back when I was really young, I was in grade school, like 7th grade. I was new to the Christian school, and I was becoming friends with, all the kids, and, I'd interact with their parents. And I remember one of my best friend at the Christian school, he's like, hey, Jared, my mom said that Jared kid, he's either going to do something really, really great, or he's going to go to jail.
Wow.
And like, cause like I was so extreme in like whatever I wanted to do. And then just, I guess touching on that is like all my friends, they just, there was like this thing, like well, it's hard because I have to live up to my friends' expectations, because they know I have like this weird thing that like I have this weird passion, this weird drive that they've rarely ever seen across all of our friends.
Mm-hmm. And that's like the common denominator for most entrepreneurs who are actually doing things out there. I think there's a pseudopreneur that wants to do things, talks about things and then lays out things and plans, but never takes that action. The fire, though, I mean, I think that's what makes it. In my opinion, I don't think it's. I've also seen situations where people do come from the same, exact same roots, and one goes this way and one goes the other way as far as the entrepreneur spirit. But I don't know. I think like we all have this thing within us that it's either gonna drive you to do something, and I think we come with it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it comes down to your why, maybe.
Yeah, it's like a loaded question, but
the thing is, like, people, like, everybody says, like, start with your why, and like the stronger your why is, like, the more drive and passion you'll have to like accomplish. But for me, like, I don't even have a why. It's so weird to say. Like, maybe I'm not like peeling back enough layers of my onion. But but like
sounds like an inside joke right there.
But for me, it's like I don't have like this strong why. I just have this burning desire to like conquer and accomplish. I don't know. Yeah.
One thing, I've talked about that with one of my mentors, and I was having the same feeling. Like, why do you put yourself through all that work? Why do you? I mean, that's what he was asking me, and it's a mindset coach. So he was, why are you going through this? Why are you going through that? Why are you creating that stress for you? What are you compensating for? Like, I don't feel like I'm compensating for anything. So, after a few months of sitting with it and looking at it, and then finding myself internally and all that stuff, like. The answer was just because I fucking can.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
It's like, why? Just because? Why not? Like, why the hell not? It's the possibility is there. I don't know, create something.
Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a noble notion to think that I guess to the idea that there's got to be a reason behind every single everything, but sometimes I don't know, maybe I haven't done the same thing and haven't peeled back enough.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I have either, but
deep enough,
I just know my personality thrives without having someone looking over me. I have a problem with authority, and so that is a burning passion of my own that I don't ever want to have to like answer to somebody. So maybe that's close to my why.
What do you guys? I mean, you guys run people. You guys are putting another set of team, a different team together for bigger things. What drives leadership in your guys' opinion? Like, how are you a good leader to the people that are working with you?
Danny's a better leader than I am.
Yeah.
I'm more, I could influence people to take action, but she's a good daily leader.
I feel.
Let me switch it a little bit on you. What do you think makes him a good leader?
Okay, that's good.
And then you're gonna have to do the same for her.
There are things that we can both work on, though. And so what makes Jared a good leader is everybody respects what Jared has to say. He doesn't talk off, like, he's not super quiet, but he's focused in the day. And if he's going to say something, it's because he has something to say that other people should hear. And everybody knows that about him. He's not super emotional, so the stuff that he says is logical, and it's usually has a good point to it. And
Pragmatic, straightforward kind of stuff.
yeah, and also
No
he has
BS.
the big picture in mind. You know, like I said, he's working on the future stuff that we're gonna do, and so I think everybody knows that he's coming from a place of a holistic understanding of what we're doing. And yeah.
What about her?
So Dani, she truly cares about the success of everybody on our team. She's really good at like what we're just talking about, taking the problem and just empowering them to go and find a solution. So really, she's creating like mini leaders, right? Because like if she could get somebody up into like kind of like a leadership quality quicker, then not only does it not only are they empowered and they have like this sense of fulfillment, but then also she's fulfilled. She felt like she's successful in making a difference in these people's lives.
Yeah, there's some meaning behind the action. So I mean, we go back to like the whole picture coming together. So you have logic, and then you have a sense of respect, coming in through through Jared's side, and then you have that empowerment and that connection to the people from your side.
Yeah.
I mean that's a recipe for destruction right there in leadership.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think
I
I
love it.
also keep clearer communication with people.
Yeah, she's more
like,
communicative than I am.
Yeah, and if there's an issue, like I handle it immediately rather than waiting and letting it sour everybody. I try to.
Put out the fires quick.
Yeah, where he would not, and that's something that
I'm working on.
we're working
on
on
it.
together.
Well, it's also pretty cool that you guys are working a lot of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that whole part of growth. And the fact that you guys do it together, I mean, that's even more.
Yeah, there's no boundary of like,
amazing.
which has been kind of interesting because he's so patient. But I would let him know, like, you handle that like crap. Like, why did you handle it that way? So there's just no boundary for like, and he would say, dude, you told me you were gonna get this done last week. Why haven't you gotten it done? So the boundary of respect, like we respect each other, but we can say what we need to say. Straight up, like, you need to handle this differently versus an employee.
Without leading them to water, you gotta do what you fucked up.
It's difficult to walk on eggshells when you're, when you're trying to make something work, and whenever
Yes.
you need to get a point across, and you feel like, oh man, I gotta phrase it this way instead of like, let's just have an open talk. Like, all right, cool. Does this make sense or does it not make sense?
It's not an immediate drain of time, but the psychological impact that has, like while you're leading up to that in itself is a time waste.
Well, and you know what it does too? I mean, it starts creating like little barriers as far as the communication
It does.
goes, because then you start, all right, how am I going to have this conversation with this person? And that in itself, I mean, it's a time suck.
For sure. And it
Like,
stresses
oh,
you
man.
out, and it's like,
Procrastinate and all
Yeah.
that, instead of sitting down like, all right, cool, let's just, open and honest talk. It's
Exactly.
transparent, get it done. So you guys are moving into bigger stuff. Development. Tell us about that stuff. What does it entail? I mean, what are you guys' goals for that? And then what do you guys need to do? And
so it's actually kind of unique. So right now, like the way the single family rental space is, there's not enough inventory. There's not enough distress inventory to put together a portfolio, right? And even if there were enough inventory to put together this rental portfolio, it's relatively fragmented because you have a property, you have 5 properties in South Phoenix, you have 5 in Goodyear, you have 5 in,
management becomes a nightmare.
it's not, you're not creating those economies of scale or that density. So really what, in order to, and we love single family. We've considered going into multifamily, and we still may go into multifamily, but for me and for Dani, like multifamily, we've never lived in an apartment. Hopefully we'll never live in an apartment where we don't understand that demographic. Really what we've been doing for the last 10 years and 5 years is we understand single family residents. We know what they want. We know how to operate those type of assets. So really what we're trying, I guess, long story short, we're looking for areas where we could do a build to rent type of model. It's simply just building a subdivision and building dense single family residences in a kind of like a dense type of cluster type of thing, where
creating an environment within that a multifamily may have, but for a single family space, going in line with what we already know. So, but with a build for rent sort of model to it. So not build to sell each one. They'd be parceled out so you can sell them individually, but building that up with an exit in mind of exiting to an institution. So backing out what kind of caps do they need to see in order for us to be able to say where do we need to be to make a spread on this.
That's definitely a different angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like it.
But to like kind of throw a curveball is there is this new proprietary building system that's out there that we're not too free to talk about, but it's a product put out by one of the larger builders in America. The last 10 years, they put together like these composite type of buildings specifically for the build to rent type of model, which is, I mean, it's freaking crazy. It's thing is like, you know, I mean, with a single family, there's probably like your expense load is anywhere from, depending on where you're at, 40 to 50%. So if you're getting $1,000 in rent, half of that is going out the door for CapEx, vacancy, taxes, insurance, all these different other things. But due to the efficiencies of this new type of composite building structure, not only is it like 1,000 times more stronger than like a stick and brick, and it's like 20 times like more efficient, like energy efficient wise than a brick and stick. You're reducing your insurance is going down significantly. You're creating those CapEx efficiencies because it's significantly cheaper. Your roof will last 100 years. Your AC, due to the efficiencies, you'll need to put a half a ton on the roof
because of the retention of the climate inside.
Exactly.
Because of the material,
because of the material, and it's just, and on top of that, it's dense, right? So like if I had to go make a repair on house number 25 and then tenant 103 calls, boom, it's just put all this shit on one truck.
It's one
hit it.
Right.
So yeah, it's just give it 5 years and you'll see hundreds of thousands of these houses in Maricopa and nationwide.
The builder that we're working with he's a very big builder and has basically said, I mean, homes have been built the same way for 150, 200 years. And it's like, why, with all this smart technology and all these new ways of doing things, why are we still building the homes the exact same way? And he created a new product that totally changes the way that homes are built. And it makes it takes the build time from 4 to 5 months down to 30 days or less. And so by doing that, it allows us to put product out quicker. And by shortening that time, we don't have to be so competitive on getting like a great lot at a great price. We can pay more and do more of this. So
just turn and burn faster.
Yeah, business doesn't have to be so hard to, and so we can just assimilate all the different pieces to it and build this product that people will come to because of all the things that it has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, people are always going to need, especially the way that you're structuring it, as far as rent to build to rent. I mean, people are always going to need rentals, and people rather live on a single family than in apartments all day long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's an awesome model.
Plus, it's a new product that the person who has developed it, his vision is a lot bigger than just homes in America. So it's just a cool thing to be a part of. We're really feel lucky to be a part
What
of.
about well, you kind of gave me a train of thought there. You said bigger than homes in America. Is it because of the price per build? Is it something that can be done, for example, in like
third world countries?
Yeah, third world countries, and
that's ultimately what prompted him to build all this, is because of the whole Haiti thing, and there was like 250,000 children died due to like buildings collapsing
during earthquakes. This product has stood in a 11.5 earthquake, which is
on a Richter scale.
It's like the next best one was at 9.
9.
So it's pretty.
No, it was like 4.5.
Oh, was it?
4.5 on the Richter scales when they put a house on a seismic table, right? And they just crank it, and they get it to a certain point, they inspect it for any sort of shear stress, cracks, whatever it is. And so like typically a brick and stick is at a 4.5 on the seismic scale, or on the Richter scale. And then this thing surpassed that, went up to 8, which was the max, and then they just cranked it all the way up. And they didn't have those numbers, but a couple weeks later, test results came in,
That's right.
and it was like 11.5 on the Richter scale, and no cracks. It was they even built 3 stories up.
Are you serious? Wow.
To try and just stress test it. So this system is freaking like it's super strong. These things will last hundreds and hundreds of years with very little maintenance. And
Game changer,
they look badass. They're super contemporary, modern. They have all the modern finishes like a normal house would, but it's significantly cheaper to build, and it attracts it's a Class A type of product. And I mean, put these things up inside 20 days. It's incredible.
Yeah, so the proven model of build for rent mixed with the exciting opportunity to do something new that no one's ever seen before, it's like, okay, we've already learned how to do business. Let's apply it towards something that's going to actually build something for people. So we're both excited to do that.
Well, it's leveling you guys up, but
Yeah.
I think in every area. You're reaching out. You're definitely expanding out of your comfort zone. You're figuring new things. You're making an impact, and it's breaking ground on something that that can be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Building the same stuff over and over for the last 100 years. Everything else changes. Why not, innovate on single families?
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So I like before we wrap up, I'd like to ask this question: if you were walking down the street and ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
You go first.
Can it be buy Bitcoin?
Yeah. For real. Invest in 2009 or 10.
Yeah. I was in Bitcoin when it was $7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Besides from picking the right lottery ticket or some. Damn, that's a great question. How about you go
Talk
first?
about early adopter, man. It was $7.
Yeah, really. I spend more time with people that are older and have been doing, well, business is one thing, but like learn more from people who have lived it and actually like listen and learn. I don't think that I was taking much in at that point. I was just on my own track. Even in school, I kind of, it's like, read this chapter. I never really read it. I would just kind of skim through it. Just, try to learn as much as you can while you have the opportunity to, and spend time with people who can, just like you can take in more from them. I think that's maybe what I would have needed to hear.
I would be get more industry experience, even though you're not working for like yourself. Because like even though I worked in corporate for like 3 years, is with a Fortune 67 company, and they ran shit so freaking smoothly in such a way, and like the hierarchy, like it flowed super well. Like even being in something like that for 3 years, like I take that etiquette and that structure the best that I can and put it in place, like our current business.
So you're saying get more out of
So
what you
get
that
more
experience.
like high level corporate experience. Like even though it's gonna suck, you could at least take that and put it in place of like whatever you try to do, because there's certain things where it's hard to explain. You get to see how certain people get brought in to like either close a deal or to like unwind like an operational issue, and everybody like knows exactly what they need to do. Everyone's collaborating in this really specific way, but it's so efficient on how the issues get handled. And if they can't handle them, then we go up to the director, and then if we have to bring in like a VP or president or something to help with that, like we do that. But it's cool to see how a high caliber team flows and functions.
So you're saying you would have paid more attention to the corporate structure while you were in there?
Exactly.
That makes sense. It proven processes, right? Like a lot of the businesses when I get started in something, for example, I automatically start thinking about the franchise model. Not because I want a franchise, but because if I want to delegate something, as you're setting it up, how is it gonna look and feel to the people who are gonna be taking it over? So yeah, I like that, man. It makes sense. Awesome. So if somebody wants to find out more about you guys, like where do we reach you?
We're on Instagram a lot. Dani_Crowell.
Dani_.
Yeah, follow me. It's Jared_Vidales on Instagram. Catch me on Facebook too. If you don't know how to spell it, we'll connect.
Cool. I'll put it on the show
you go.
notes. You guys also have investment opportunities going on, funding opportunities. Did you mention that? Did you want to talk
I would
about
just say keep an eye on what we're doing on Instagram and Facebook, and if it's something you want to learn more about, get in touch with us.
All right, cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. It's a journey that's been a long time in evolving, and it's so cool to see something begin, from a Mexican restaurant onto development and changing third world countries, through single family stuff and new products. Man, it's so cool, so cool. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Cool.
It's a wrap. Good
It's a
shit.
wrap. You just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused, you got this.